Welcome to Gun News Review for the week of July 2nd, 2018. Former FBI Director and self-confessed gun owner James Comey has slammed the NRA in a recent interview. Speaking to the British outlet iNews, he called the organization one of the worst things that goes on in the U.S. and said the group sells fear in the wake of mass shootings. Comey, who was fired by President Trump last year, told iNews that while he owns guns, he thinks there are ways to implement gun control measures that are consistent with the Constitution. He said there must be things citizens can agree on in regard to who can buy a gun and its capabilities in a way that doesn't threaten the constitutional right to keep and bear arms. The New York Times is reporting the ATF regularly overrules its own inspectors, allowing gun dealers who fail inspections to keep their licenses even after they were previously warned to follow the rules. The paper cited interviews with more than half a dozen current and former law enforcement officials and a review of more than 100 inspection reports. The New York Times says the ATF declined repeated requests for comment. Federal officials say Oklahoma residents with medical marijuana cards will not be able to obtain gun permits. That after last week's voter approval for the medical use of the drug. Oklahoma gun owners and those in 25 other states are now facing a conflict between state and federal laws governing guns and marijuana. That's because federal law makes it illegal to possess both a gun and marijuana. Colorado Republican Senator Cory Gardner and Massachusetts Democratic Senator Elizabeth Warren have introduced a bill that would protect states that have legalized marijuana from federal interference. The Oklahoma Second Amendment Association believes state gun owners who need marijuana for treatment should be allowed to possess both. A national group that supports more gun regulation is backing Columbus, Ohio, to fight a lawsuit over firearms restrictions enacted this year. Every Town for Gun Safety says it will provide free legal assistance to the city. The group was co-founded by former New York Mayor Michael Bloomberg. Two gun rights groups, Ohioans for Concealed Carry and the Buckeye Firearms Foundation, sued Columbus last month. They believe the city overstepped its powers by violating state law that requires uniform laws across the state to regulate guns. The new Columbus laws ban so-called bump stocks and make carrying a gun while under a disability a misdemeanor. You're listening to Gun News Review. The Oregon Supreme Court has temporarily blocked an initiative that would ban the sale of some semi-automatic guns and high-capacity magazines. The move came just over a week before a key deadline, likely stopping it from making the November ballot. The court says it found problems with the official description of Initiative Petition 43 and ruled that it must be revised before a signature gathering can start. The decision came just days before the deadline for its supporters to gather signatures to qualify for the November ballot. Opponents, including the National Rifle Association, had filed legal challenges to the proposals. Police in San Francisco say they took in 187 guns during a gun buyback last weekend. The event offered $100 for every handgun and $200 for every so-called assault weapon. No questions asked. The event was the seventh such buyback for the city. China is warning its citizens about traveling to the U.S. because of what it calls highly frequent gun violence. The notice issued by the Chinese embassy in Washington last weekend also said robberies and burglaries are common in the United States. It warned Chinese tourists to be cautious of suspicious people and avoid going out alone at night. And the Scholastic Action Shooting Program says it's looking for people to volunteer as safety officers at the 2018 National Championships. The event is July 14th through the 21st at the Cardinal Shooting Center in Marengo, Ohio. The SASP says nearly 450 athletes will compete this year as it experiences record growth. Those who can volunteer for a half day as a safety officer will be entered in prize giveaways. You've been listening to Gun News Review. Comprehensive and concise.